Hello and welcome to the Pleasurepreneur podcast. This podcast will help you create what you desire in your business with pleasure. Whether that be calling in your ideal clients, making more money, or creating a balanced business life blend. I'm your host, Regan Fig, pleasure and business coach, published author of A Mother's Pleasure, wife and mama to 3 little wildlings. However you're choosing to listen to this podcast, ask yourself, how can I make this more pleasurable? And do just that. I acknowledge the custodians of the land on which this podcast is recorded and produced, the Wadi Wadi people of Dharawal land. Now, let's proceed with pleasure. In this episode, I interview Circle Facilitator extraordinaire, motherhood mentor, business guide, homeschooling mama, and absolutely magnetic human being, Rachael Rose, founder of Together, Women's Circle Facilitator Training. Rachael is a true force of nurturing wisdom in the business world and was an absolute joy to have on the podcast. She has this wonderfully grounded yet powerful way of approaching life and business with community building at the heart of her message. She shares with us her personal journey of guiding over 1,500 women through her programs and what it means to create sacred, supportive spaces in a world that often keeps women disconnected and competing. Rachael also reveals how honouring her family values while growing her business has led to both professional success and personal fulfillment. She is a brilliant, heart-centered entrepreneur, proving that business success can be both sustainable and values-driven. Her approach is transformative, and this conversation felt like sitting in on one of her legendary circles, rich with insight, laughter, and the kind of honest wisdom that stays with you. I know you're going to enjoy this one. Now let's proceed with pleasure. All right. Well, Rachael, thank you so much for joining me on the Pleasurepreneur podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, me too. So good to have you here. Now, I have invited you onto this podcast. You know, it is the Pleasurepreneur podcast. And what I see in you is you showing up in your business and online so authentically and just doing business on your terms and really like evidently prioritizing your values and what's important to you, like a true pleasurepreneur. Do you see yourself as a pleasurepreneur, someone who is like driven by desire and what perhaps brings you pleasure?
I probably don't use that language for myself, but I really resonate with the values-driven, needs-based life. Like we have had to design our life to suit our family and to suit our children and what we want to be doing together, which is spending a lot of time together and not being super stressed and burnt out as parents. And so like we've done a complete 360 on my partner's work and my business and what we do with the kids. But as I was saying to you before we hit record, I'm like, I've had the most perfect Regan Fig day because it's a Thursday. So we don't have traditional childcare, but my in-laws take my kids for half a day on Thursday. And my partner and I have put that as date Thursday. We could both work, but we have decided it's really important for us and our relationship of 13 years now that we have somewhere in the calendar that is spaciousness for us. So we went to the beach, we came home, we had a sauna, we had an ice bath, we had orgasms, we meditated, we did some yoga, and then we had lunch. And now I'm doing a podcast. So that's not my everyday, like, to be fair, but I do prioritize like connection and intimacy, both, you know, pleasure-filled intimacy, but just the juiciness of life, like going to the beach. That's why we moved to the South Coast, further down from where we used to live. And I am at the beach and in nature 3, 4, 5 times a week. So that is hugely pleasurable to me. But yeah, maybe there's still some resistance to like claiming that title. In the same way that when you gave me your book a couple of years ago, I had so much resistance to it at the time.
Yeah, not surprised. And I'm not talking about personally, but like this is why the book needed to be written.
Yeah. And I think my business wasn't set up in the way that it was then. Things felt more of a struggle. I didn't have as much support in my mothering experience. And so, you know, reading your book was wonderful, but also like oh, can I meet this? Is this true? Is this possible? And I feel like over the last couple of years, I'm seeing more and more of that
Mhm.
in what we've created.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I had people previously, like past mentors and, colleagues approach me and be like, wouldn't it be easier just to sell like, joy in motherhood? Like I can imagine there'd be, lots of resistance to pleasure in motherhood, And I was like, that's the point.
Mm.
So yeah, and that's like when I started researching about pleasure in motherhood, I could hardly find anything out there. Hence why I was like, I have to write a book. And so much of that transfers into business as well. And so when there is resistance to pleasure in motherhood, there's also resistance to pleasure in business. And I say pleasure as like an umbrella term for like enjoyment, rest, doing things that we enjoy, fun, etc. So yeah, there's it's really accepted and celebrated in our society to be exhausted and burnt out and stressed. Like that's what a real business looks like. So you talked, Rach, before about doing a whole 360 in your business journey, in your life journey. What has that looked like? What parts do you want to share about the journey of your business and getting to a point where you have Thursdays that are date days with orgasms and beach and meditations?
Yeah, so it was really sparked by my pregnancy with my second child, going, okay, well, I'm building my business to a certain point where it was at the time I was a doula, there was in person work, there was client based one on one work, and then getting pregnant. And I was sick for the first 16 weeks. So that was a bit of a shake up like, oh, okay, I genuinely have less time here. I'm not feeling great. How can I design this business so that when I return from a maternity leave, it's going to serve us and our family? And my partner at the time, he was working like typical 9 to 5 in the medical field as a radiographer. That kind of work is in a dark room for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And he was coming home stressed and, not enjoying his work either. And I just kept seeing these little sparks and visions of just a more flexible future for us. One where, okay, I'm starting to immerse myself in the world of online business where people are talking about all of these different ways that you can make money that don't necessarily look like you turn up to an appointment and you make the money for those hours that you're there. I mean, the classic trading time for money. And so these little sparks were going off. Is it sustainable to be an in-person doula when I have a young family? What do I want my days to look like with 2 kids? A spark and a seed was planted around homeschooling. And for me, originally, I had a lot of resistance to homeschooling because I couldn't see how that could fit in the current circumstances that we were living in. I was like, well, I don't want to take on all of the homeschooling responsibilities and my partner's away 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. That doesn't feel good for me. And so it was like, well, how can we get to there? How can we homeschool the kids? How can we have more time together? How can we feel less stressed? Is it possible to do what these people are talking about and like creating some kind of income that's scalable, like some kind of offer that I can sell over and over again and makes a little bit more sense than always trying to find the next single client? And that is when I started to come up with the idea of my course, which I've been running now for almost 3 years. And it's like what I pour 50% of my attention into my business, but I made it over 6 months and now I just continue to sell it. And it is really a scalable model within my business. And looking at, well, how can I take all these bits and pieces of like individual client work and little workshops that I'm doing and this thing and this thing and this thing, and how can I pull it all together? And that's when I created a business mentoring program that goes for a year. Because I love spontaneity. I love the chaos. I thrive in all that, but I also love structure and like being able to plan ahead. So I've been running the business mentorship for the last 3 years as well. So now I have 2 offers in my business, both that only really rely on launching once a year. And then I have my income for the whole year. And then I can just deliver the work and show up for my clients and enjoy myself and market the business. So it's just like a completely different business model. And when the course started to get traction, like I had a really successful first launch. It made $30,000, which isn't truly the norm. Like it usually takes more stepping stones to get there. But I knew it was going to be a winner just because I'd been developing it for a long time. I had lots of people asking for it. Like I really responded to what my community wanted, which is it's about women's circles. It's a facilitator training.
I was going to say, please plug it.
It's called Together. But when that launch happened, that's when my partner too could see like, oh, okay, like this business has legs, like we can actually do this. So he ended up quitting that job. We sold our house. We moved further down the South Coast. We had a little bit of money from the sale of the house that we could just sink into and go, okay, let's play and experiment and like take the pressure off. But also we've got this there as I build my business. And so now my partner bakes bread at a local bakery, which he loves 2 days a week. And he manages a farm that he and his brother run 2 days a week. And I have my business that I'm in 2.5 days a week. And so like together, we just have like a really beautiful, flexible life where he's able to do things that he's really passionate about. Neither of those things are incredible money makers, but like we're able to make decisions now based on joy and drive and values. And my business is a money maker, but it's also something that I adore doing and I love showing up for. And it's like the best thing ever. So yeah, I feel like we've got a really good thing going on.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, I've got so many places I want to take this. First of all, it's very evident that you would adore your business. And, you know, it's really noticeable how you are like openly and like authentically connecting with your people online. So that is evident. And yeah, I just love how this has kind of like evolved. It wasn't just like, by the sounds of it, it wasn't just like some overnight, like we're completely overhauling everything.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the things that came up for you on that journey of like kind of revealing this new life and taking steps towards it? Like what kind of stuff did you feel resistance towards or challenged by in order to let yourselves have what you want?
I think just in the beginning, a bit of disbelief that it actually was possible, that I could be at the beach with the kids or going to a homeschool meetup with the kids and some sales could be coming through on my phone. And like I check my emails later that day and I'm like, oh, okay, I made $1,000 today. Like that feels really unnatural. And, you know, I didn't believe that was true. And now it's happening to me. And my partner too, he'd been working for 15 years in the one career, which is you get a paycheck at a certain point. And me, before I started my business, I worked in like the corporate world to a degree. And so it's just a totally different way of thinking. So I would say there was in the beginning, like, do we deserve this? Is it okay that we're getting this? I had to move through a lot of feelings of unworthiness, undercharging in the beginning, feeling like I was ripping people off because I was selling the one thing many times. And then it's like, oh, am I allowed to make this much money from one thing that I've done? But then I also take a step back and it's like I have poured my heart into that offering and it's like this living entity that the more I pour into it, the more I gain from it as well. And I'm not in that place anymore. But in the beginning, it was like, oh, is this fair? Like, is it okay? It is, being able to like look at who joined the course and then see that someone from South Africa joined and someone from the UK joined and some from the States. Like, I just had to go through a lot of like, wow, this is really happening. And I'm no longer running a business that is just in my local community, which is where I had been based. And this opens up so many doors that I don't even know where we could go from here. Like I was reflecting the other day with my business mentoring group. We were doing a thing on Instagram and I was showing them my insights and I was showing that, you know, who follows me on Instagram? It's Australia, New Zealand, US, UK, but the US and the UK are quite small percentages. If I want to, I could expand into 2 completely new markets that like are very small percentages of my businesses. And I could be putting energy and focus into making connections and collaborations with people in the US and the UK and start to sell together the course in those countries. And suddenly I could be getting hundreds, if not thousands of new enrollments. And I'm not in a place where I am going to prioritize that, but also knowing that I could is just a really cool mindset shift to go, oh, like there is no end here. Like I can just keep growing it to what suits me, what suits my capacity, but also kind of, yeah, I say the word capacity, but then that is a ceiling on what is possible. So there's still lots of stuff at play, I would say.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. And I love hearing you know, like, knowing that there is a desire and a possibility for more. And also, like, coming back to like the center and being like, but that's not a priority right now. Glorious.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's been really pivotal in you growing your business in a way that has felt like it is sustainable? Have you had much of a journey with like exhaustion and burnout and depletion on your business journey?
I will say my overarching goal from the very beginning, I always wrote down I would love 10,000 women to do together and to become facilitators and start women's circles. We're at 570 or something like that who have done the course. So we're a way off, but I'm always anchored into that 10,000. And it's like that's driving a lot of the decisions that I have. However, I do operate seasonally. So, there's different seasons where I just completely pull back, where I'm like really satisfied with the numbers that we're at, where I almost coast along, but coast along with so much gratitude. Like, this is fine. My needs are being met. The business's needs are being met. And I know that I can grow as well. Burnout, yes, I have experienced. We are a neurodivergent family. I've got neurodivergent kids. So there are elements where we are just ebbing and flowing with our family's cyclical energies and needs. And sometimes that looks like periods of overwhelm, periods of dysregulation, but also knowing that the business model that I have allows me to kind of be in those places, sink into it, and then pull myself back out and be okay. So I had an experience of burnout probably the beginning of last year, but I would say it was less business related and more life related. But obviously it impacts both.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And so I love that you shared that your first launch of Together was like $30,000. I find it really inspiring when, especially women in business, talk numbers. So thanks for sharing that. It makes it more, it normalizes the desire to create money in your business, which is like the purpose of a business, many purposes, but a business is a business and not a hobby, right?
Mm.
How do you feel like, what do you think was some of the driving forces for such an epic result? And like, by the way, for listeners, like Rachael is kicking ass in her business. This wasn't a fluke, it wasn't just, I've seen you grow exponentially, it seems. What do you think have been some of the driving factors for that kind of growth?
Yeah. So if I look at that initial launch, it was like 3 years really in the making in terms of community building and bringing my audience along with me, that women's circles are something that they should know about and care about. And so when I was running women's circles in my local community in Wollongong, when I lived there, and I was running some online as well, like I've always shared online. I've always used Instagram as that tool for connection. I've had people all over the world, but also like a lot of my community is in Australia, and sharing about the benefits of women's circles, sharing about my experience as a facilitator and the way that's led to my own personal evolution and growth and what I've learned from stepping into that kind of leadership role, sharing snippets of women that had regularly attended my circles and like the changes they were seeing in their life. And, when I went to move, I had been circling with the same group of women for 6 months, and they were all pretty devastated that the circle was going to be ending. And so that's when I said, well, there's 12 of you here. You can run the circles. But there was a lot of resistance there. So I did actually directly create, it was first an in-person training. I ran 3 of them in my backyard studio. And then I had 35 people join over the 3 dates. And it was when someone traveled from Orange to come. So from Orange to Wollongong. And I think she camped in her car overnight and then went home the next day. I was like, I got to make this easier for people. It's got to go online. So I took everything that I'd learned from those in-person trainings with my beautiful community. Most of the people that came to those trainings were women that had been connected with me either in Circle or on Instagram for several years. And then I created the course based off of what we did together in those trainings. And so I had a wait list of over 100 people who were interested in finding out about it before I hit live. And so, building it the entire time too, I shared the process. I was like, I'm creating this module today. I'm filming this. I'm just letting people in on that. It was not like, hey, surprise, I've got this course. It was actually, wow, finally Rachel's releasing that thing that she's been talking about doing for a really long time and keeping us in the loop of. And so, yeah, to be able to go out to 100 people, and that wasn't like I didn't have to do a masterclass, a lead magnet or anything. I was literally just saying, hey, I'm making this thing. Do you want to hear about it? And people did. And I am very lucky that all subsequent launches have been pretty decent. Like they've been from 10 to 50,000. And so that little idea has now made well over 200K or something like that, and just provided so many beautiful opportunities, not only for me, but I mean, the feedback and the women that have started circles all over Australia has just been, yeah, so phenomenal.
Oh, that is so great. And I love how there's the piece of you were running your circle and then everyone was like disappointed because you were moving. And then you're like, well, you can do it. And everyone's like, how? And so there was that need, that desire. People wanted to learn from you.
Mm.
And so was there also the element of you wanting to develop that? Was that something that felt really good for you that you really wanted to share with the world? Or was it more just like, I will do this thing because I feel like that's what the people want and that's what I can help them with?
There was a lot of resistance in the beginning. One, because I had been running women's circles by that stage for about 4 or 5 years. So, I didn't feel like I had this legacy where I could say, I've been running women's circles since I was a 7-year-old. Not that you ever would, but I
So
didn't
advanced.
yeah, I didn't feel I had this like title. And the way that I run women's circles is I err into the spiritual side, but really my main focus is around connection and storytelling. So I'm a little bit different as well. But that really served me when I went and looked at who was out there and who was offering different women's circle facilitator trainings and how they were positioning themselves. It was very clear that I could come in and be like, I've actually got something different for you all. And if you want, maybe you're more of the straighty 180 kind of person and you don't really identify as like a witchy woman, this training is perfect for you. So I did have lots of resistance. I had like a lot of stuff I moved through, and I actually just shared all of that as well as I was developing it. So it wasn't like when I went to sell it, I was like, I am the leader of all women's circles and I am the only person you should ever learn from. And I just know everything and I'm the best. It was more like, I've worked really hard on this. I think what I have to offer is good. I think it's unique, but I'm also really nervous and you want to do this thing together. And I think people really enjoyed that as well. And it gave them, and it continues to give people a big, big permission slip that they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to know everything to run circles. They can be an anxious introvert like I am. They can be an overthinker. They can have self-doubts, and it's all good. It's fine. Like, we want that in circle. We want humans. So I can see that there was this real beautiful energy surrounding it. And that's why I do think like it's got this own entity to itself. It's like I created it, but it is also this own thing now.
Yeah, so good. And I think that is like what you were talking about before about the way you share so openly, not just about like, hey, I'm creating this thing, but also like, oh my God, this feels really nerve wracking, and sharing some like of those behind the scenes, just the real stuff. It's so good. And like, you're so good at that. Has that been something that just comes naturally to you? Or is it like, oh, I just feel like I need to share this as well?
It's definitely not a strategy. And sometimes I question whether it diminishes my professionalism and whether it creates this barrier where people are like, oh, do I want to work with her? But really, from my track record and the women that join together and the women that join my programs, I've like loved every single client I've worked with over the last 3.5 years. So I don't think it's doing me a disservice. I think it is just second nature. It's just that, particularly because my work is around connection and making women feel less alone. And that's what we do in Circle. It's like, well, why don't I just offer that kind of experience through Instagram as well? I don't need to be polished and perfect and put together. And people can still take me seriously and still see that I'm very intelligent. I do know what I'm doing. It's, I don't have doubts in that area, but sometimes I cry after I run a circle, or sometimes I spend like 3.5 weeks thinking about the one thing I said on a podcast interview and I don't ever want to share it, like share the podcast interview. But I'll share that I had a really hard aftermath of the podcast and people resonate and they connect, and I like that.
Yeah, so glorious. I remember one of your reels. Oh my gosh, I could still laugh about it now. And it was a video of you like, sitting in like your little swing, like your kids' swing in your backyard, like almost having like a little mentee bee because you were like creating such a success in your business. I think maybe you had just completed a launch or something,
Yeah.
or you had a big financial day. Like, what was that? That was so funny.
So I launched an online mother's circle
Mhm.
and it sold out in like 3 days. And I also launched a online mothers in business circle. It was like the first iteration of my program now, but like what it looked like beforehand. And I launched them both in the same week and they both sold out in 3 days. And I think I made 7.5 for one and probably like $15,000 in that week. And like that was the most amount of money I'd ever made in that short amount of time. And I was rocking on the swing set in the backyard. And Tristan was just like, "You all right, Rach?" Like, oh man, like this feels really uncomfortable. And is this a sign of things to come? And this is really exciting. But like, what do I do with these feelings? And anyway, worked it out. And now, I'm quite comfortable seeing that amount of money come into my business. But at the time, it was like massive, massive.
Mm. Yeah. And that's such a great thing to share as well, because I think sometimes we might assume that, like, say for listeners, if they're just starting to build their business, that like when they reach their financial milestones or create certain successes that are important to them, that it's just going to feel wonderful. But yeah, sometimes like our body, it's like our nervous system needs to have experienced that before. It's like a new unfamiliar experience, which freaks our body out a little.
Mm,
And so just like with, I talk about experiencing more pleasure in business and having like a pleasure-led business, but that doesn't mean that it's pleasurable all the time. In order to pursue what brings you pleasure and prioritize your pleasure, it can take a lot of discomfort to get there. Same thing with like success in business. I love that you've shared that.
mm.
Yeah. Okay. And so you talked a little bit about like Instagram, sharing yourself online, sharing all these different like flavors of Rachel that, like, let's be honest, I think everybody loves it. You're being very modest.
I mean, some
Right.
don't because people leave and that's fine. But, I have had some people who have been around for 6.5 years as I've built this business. Like they remember when I quit my uni degree and I said, I'm going to become a doula. And they watched me from doula to women's circle facilitator to course creator to business mentor. Some absolutely love it. And I know that I have, people enjoy my content and they resonate with it. And even if it's, encouraging someone to go for a run because I'm now enjoying running, just like you share about surfing and, connecting in with your passions. I'm just sharing those sorts of things. And I know that it inspires people and it's a really fun place to be.
Yeah. Quick pause now, because I have something game-changing for you. You are so ready to increase the profit and pleasure of your business. You know you don't have to choose one without the other, but you're just not quite sure how to make it happen. Here is where you begin. The Pleasurepreneur Business Audit. It's a self-guided experience that helps you pinpoint exactly what in your business is making things harder than they need to be in order to create an enjoyable, ease-filled business that makes more money with less stress and depletion. You'll get access to a private podcast playlist and a simple workbook that will walk you through the 3 most important areas of your business so that you can make small but powerful shifts to make your business more profitable, sustainable, and pleasurable. It's quick, it's actionable, and it's designed to help you create big growth in your business in very small, subtle ways. Click the link in the show notes to get immediate access and start auditing your business in bite-sized chunks at your own pace in less than an hour. Now, let's get back into the episode. And so do you enjoy showing up online? Do you enjoy Instagram? What has been your journey with that? Have you, like, if you do love it, have you loved it from the start?
I have loved it from the start. Yeah. As someone, like I probably present online as like extroverted and really outgoing, but that I have the benefit of I'm talking behind my screen and my phone. And Look, when I am with close friends, I am who I am, but there is a side of me that is more introverted and more overthinking. And I think I know I do share authentically, but I also get to pause before I think or before I write something, before I share something. So there is a little bit of distance between that immediate way that we are in the world with other humans. But I've always loved it. I've always thought this is an incredible opportunity. Like, wow. And, from the beginning, my account is under 10,000. I don't have tens and tens of thousands of people, but I've always just enjoyed talking to people. And so even when I started from the account from zero, when I had 500 or 1,000, I was like, so cool. Like people are interested in the words that I have to share. It's given me so many opportunities. When I was working as a doula, I was able to go on some pretty prolific podcasts. I was able to speak at conferences. I was invited to do different things. I know my business income also would not exist without Instagram. So I have a beautiful dog walker who comes every week and we always talk about business. And he's like, oh, I'm just having a really hard time with Instagram. Don't you ever feel that way? And I was like, nah, babe, it makes me heaps of money. Every time I post there, if I'm selling something, I make money now. And that wasn't always the case because that wasn't my primary focus to begin with. And it isn't still. It's about connection. But it's like, it's a free marketing tool. I've never put any money into ads. My entire business has been grown organically through people and through social media. So why wouldn't I be just like so thrilled that it exists? And then it's been able to, change our trajectory of our family's lives, where we are now homeschooling our 2 kids, where we can work part-time. That is the vehicle for how we did that.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. And so have you worked with people before? I'm just thinking like, have you had clients who aren't interested in being online? Is that something that you think is necessary?
Yeah, I do have clients that will say, oh, can I really get around this? And I think for different industries and for different offers, it is a possibility. I have seen personally, like anyone that's kind of denounced Instagram and gone, I'm getting off here, they usually have some backup form of marketing channel. So I think of some bigger names like Leonie Dawson, who I love, but she was like, I'm leaving social media for good. She had 55,000 people on her email list when she did that. So it's like a soft landing place of many, many people to be able to continue to market your business. And she came back after 2 years. Is it a necessary means? I think for some, depends on your goals as well. Like some clients that I work with do want to have a very in-person, location-based specific business. And maybe that strategy is not Instagram and it really is connecting with the local community, doing local-based marketing. Maybe your whole marketing strategy is doing paid ads. So you're not actually on there, but you're reaching the right people that you need to. Maybe it's a podcast. Definitely email. It's something that I'm trying to do more of over the last couple of years. You have to have something. You can't just create a website and hope for the best. Like that's not how anything works. Yes, you can put effort into SEO, so you can have search engine optimization so people are finding your website through Google searches and things like that. But then the sales process, like it needs to be quite sophisticated and really be able to show people who you are, why they should trust you, what your offer's about. And can you do that all in a funnel without any kind of like human interaction via social media? Possibly, but then it's about goals and results as well. So I do think it's necessary. And I also acknowledge that it's a really tricky space for a lot of people and it is designed to be addictive. And I have my own struggles with using my phone in ways I don't like as well. So sometimes when I say I love Instagram, I love it for my business. Personally, I can struggle sometimes with like being in a scroll hole until 11 p.m. and just going, what am I doing here? I absolutely understand like the opposite side of like, oh, do we really need to be doing this? And is this where I want to be?
Yeah. And I think it goes to show as well, like the fact that you love using Instagram and you see it as such an opportunity and an advantage and that you enjoy showing up there, that makes so much sense that it has grown the way it's grown and your business has grown the way it's grown. Tell me about other parts of your business that you enjoy or that you have prioritized because that's what you enjoy, perhaps over something that just felt like a shorter obligation.
Yeah. So in my business mentoring program, originally I would be doing the group calls and then I would have Voxer because that's just what people do in business mentorship. You have Voxer and you voice memo your clients and, that's the standard. And I did that. I had 12 clients in that round. I loved my clients. I hated Voxer. I hated the exchange of Voxer. I found because at that stage, I wasn't as clearly defined when I work. So now I work on Mondays, Wednesdays, and every second half Thursday. And that's in the diary, and that's my time. And my kids aren't here. I no longer do all the dribs and drabs around them. I like the separation in small moments. But when I was doing that, I was with them a lot more, and I was listening to Voxes around them, and I was kind of replying in all of these little gaps. And then sometimes I was listening to them, but and my son would, headbutt me in the face because he's such a sensory seeking, beautiful little bundle of joy. I wouldn't be able to reply then. And then that becomes something I have to do again. I have to listen to it again. And so it was like double handling things. I started to feel like I was always behind. The next round, I was like, I'm not doing Voxer. That's not going to be part of the program. And I do one-to-ones. I love doing one-to-one calls. And I love knowing that on the 2 days a week, I offer 2 spots in my calendar. So I'm not doing 8 back-to-back one-to-ones. I know for my own energy, for me to really enjoy it, sink into the experience, I can do 2 client sessions per my working days. And I look forward to them. We get a lot out of them. I'm energized. I'm not drained. I can do it in a set amount of time and then I can switch off the next day. Because my alternate days when I'm with the kids, they're full homeschool days and I'm out of reception as well for one of them because we're at a farm property hanging out and having fun. So I don't want to have to feel like there's things waiting for me. So yeah, there is common advice, when you scale your business, you scale yourself out of the one-to-ones. But I also see the one-to-ones as the lifeblood of my business that provide a lot of creativity to me and give me expression of my ideas because now I am selling a course that I'm no longer involved in. I'm involved in marketing it, but I'm not delivering the content, although I do reply to comments and things like that. But that requires a different part of my brain. That's the more strategic marketing side of the brain. And I need something to fulfill that creative, connective, here's all my business ideas that I can't do, so you go and do them. So I love that. And I don't think I'll ever really let go of that one-to-one work, even though it is okay, it takes up an hour and a half of my time. But if I love it, then it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. So, and one of the things that I will do with my one-on-one clients when we start is I do a pleasurepreneur business audit. And part of that is combing through, their offers and their marketing and the way they're selling and combing through that to see what they're not loving, what they're really doing out of obligation or doing because they think they should, and replacing it with something that they love or something that's really simple or something that they actually really look forward to. Because when we are offering things that we don't enjoy, that feel oh God, I have to get to that thing, or that or I hate that platform that I'm using that I think I should, then that actually affects the way we're showing up to sell it for, say, the next round. Do you think that can you see that for the way you've changed things in your business, that it's been easier to sell what it is that you're offering because you love offering it, you love facilitating it?
Yeah, and I love the way I launch, which is pretty non-traditional in that I don't have a freebie masterclass that leads into the sale. I've never actually offered any kind of freebie lead magnet. I haven't really list built in the last couple of years. I've got 900 people on my email list. It's not a huge amount of people. I let go of my podcast because it wasn't serving me and my energy and my flow in my week. And that felt just relief. And it's it's there. I can come back to it when and if I want to. But yeah, I launch in a way where I don't pre-plan the content and I don't batch stuff. And I just wake up and I'm like, cool, what am I doing today? And some people will be like, that sounds awful. But because I only launch twice a year, it's a couple of months out of the year where I'm in launch mode. I use those times as I'm almost in this vortex of creativity when I'm doing it. And I'm much better in the last say 18 months of launching and really ensuring that I don't get to the end and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm crispy and I don't want to show up to anything. So like my last launch of Together made 50,000 and it was quite enjoyable. It was enjoyable. Like I got to share some cool stuff and think about the different ways I could talk about it. And it went for a month and I created the content on the fly. And I wrote my strategy and plan on a mind map on my fridge. And that's what I checked every day. And then when we'd get sales come through, I'd tell the kids and the family and we'd write the name on the wall. And so next to where I have dinner, we just had the first name of all these people that were joining. And the kids would be like, how many people are joined now? And then I had like this goal where I was going to buy a sauna if I reached 50,000. And so then that was something that was fun and we could celebrate. But I met that number and I didn't buy a sauna for like 3 months. And I was like, no, I'll just let it go. It's all right. I don't need to do that. And I actually shared on Instagram that I hadn't done the thing. And, I'm getting coached by all these people, including my clients, being like, Rachael Rose, if one of your clients said they were going to do this beautiful thing for themselves based off like their thing and then they didn't do it, what would you say to them? I was like, oh, okay, I'll buy the sauna. And now I sit in the sauna like 5 times a week and I get to just like enjoy the fruits of my work as well.
Oh, so good. So what do you think it was that stopped you from getting the sauna right away?
Money. I still am working through money stuff. I'm making 6 figures, but I spend $50,000 in expenses in my business per year. And I invest in mentoring myself and I have had a VA and I invest in a bookkeeper. So there's still like practical things I just need to be aware of. And my partner brings in a very small baker's income from 2 days a week work. And the other thing he does is voluntary. So it's like, yes, we've got enough. And then also the like logistical part of me that's like, we have to pay for the mortgage and the rent is like, feels a bit too bougie to allow myself to want a sauna, number one, because that's so like, who has a sauna in their house? I mean, lots of people do, apparently. But yeah, that I could even want it and then that I could buy it for myself. I did end up buying it when it was on sale in Black Friday sales. So
Right.
I allowed myself, but it was still with some concessions that it had to be less than I was originally thinking it was going to be.
Yeah, I love your awareness around that of being like, oh, am I allowed to want this? And then actually, am I allowed to give it to myself?
Yeah. Tristan didn't want it either. So there was some barriers of like within our family home and relationship of like wanting to buy something that he's like, I don't think we should get that. His positioning was like, it's such a big thing and we care about the environment and what happens when it breaks at its end of life cycle. Like, where do we put this bloody thing?
Yeah.
And do we have enough space in our pretty modest home? Anyway, who was the first person that had a sauna when it arrived, Regan?
Of course.
It was him. And he has continued to have them with me and by himself. And he has admitted that it was a good idea.
Right. That reminds me of something that I share about desire in my book. And I don't know if you remember it, but it's like our desires, especially as women, especially as mothers or like the matriarchs in our family, it's like I feel like we've been given these desires to lead our people forward, to lead
Mm.
our families forward.
Mm.
And I used to often just kind of not like decline or not like dismiss my desires, but almost be like, oh, well, Jake, like my husband, what do you think? Like,
Mm.
and if it was something different, oh, okay, well, we'll do what you suggest.
Mm.
And then I'm like, no, I knew that it was my desire that like what I wanted to do or the way I wanted to do it or the way I thought we should navigate it was such a better idea.
And
You know?
I also said to him, I'm like, this is my 5th, 6th launch or whatever, where I've put a number on the wall and then I've hit that number. Like, that's pretty remarkable. It doesn't always happen. And I do want to take a pause and celebrate that because
Mm.
I've kind of been on this upward trajectory for the last 3 years. And while, yes, I celebrate along the way, I'm still kind of catching up with like, oh, wow, like this is working and it has continued to work. And so now we've got this thing in the living room that's like this representation of what my business can do for us. Another good thing that my business did last year is it paid for my daughter's palate expansion and my own. I wear a splint at night because we both have obstructed airways. And so that was like $11,500. We see the same orthodontist, dentist as you do. And going, my business paid for that, which has improved my health dramatically, and it's improved my daughter's health dramatically as well. And like that is so cool to be able to see what you can actually make happen when you need it to and want it to.
Right. So good. You just touched on a really important aspect of business that I want to talk about, which is like the when then fallacy. You know, I can imagine there's probably listeners thinking like, wow, 50K, that's amazing. I would lose my mind, yada, yada. And we can often think like, well, when I get to that amount of money, or when I sign this number of clients, or when I, fill in the blank, then I'll be able to enjoy it, or then I'll be able to celebrate myself, or then I'll feel confident, or whatever it might be. And it just goes to show that like oftentimes it's not about reaching a destination that changes things, the things we move through on the way there and beyond there as well. So I'm so happy that you went and got yourself a sauna. Did you have a
Yay.
sauna today on your Pleasurepreneur Thursday?
I did, yes.
See, you're like, Tristan, you're going to get laid more because of the sauna.
Absolutely.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's the first thing you should have gone with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what is it that you feel is important that we haven't yet spoken about today?
I mean, I do think it is important to mention that this took me time. And yeah, like you mentioned before, it doesn't sound like it happened overnight, and it didn't. And I feel like you and I probably started our businesses maybe even at similar times, and we've kind of come up together over the last six-ish years. And, for the first 3 years, I was doing so much experimentation and just figuring out what it was that I wanted to offer and how I wanted to work and what that looked like. And the first 3 years, I didn't make a whole lot of money. And, Tristan was working full time then, and we were really existing on his wage, and my business was just, it paid for itself kind of thing. Or it paid for my home birth and my doula and my birth photographer for my second. And so it was doing these beautiful things, but it wasn't this thing that our family relied on. And that I just really want to normalize. Like, it does take a couple of years, and it's like you're building this momentum, and you do have to get clear around what it is you're going to be doing, and does that actually make logistical sense on paper? Because some clients will come to me and they're like, I want to make $100,000 and I am an in-person doula. Oh, okay. Well, how many births are you going to have to attend to be able to do that? How can you stay an in-person doula doing what you love, but build in other things that can help bring in other money outside of that? And the other thing that I can directly track with my momentum is that I did invest in a business mentor when I was creating the course, and I've pretty consistently had one for the 3 years since. So we can think that we know what to do next, and then, even just some subtle things that my business mentor said to me at the time of launching that course. I think she told me it should be $50 more than it was, and like I had a lot of resistance. I was like, no. But I did end up upping the price, and then 50 times 100 people is actually, oh, wow, I'm so glad I made that decision. And I wouldn't have made it had I not just had someone to really get that feedback from. So investing in other people who can see the bigger picture for you, and also surrounding yourself with other people who are doing things that you're desiring as well, because it has really changed my perception to be around women like yourself, like other women that we know in the online space that are making six figures, multi-six figures. You just go, oh, okay, like they have kids and they do the school run and they have, relationship stuff that they're working through, and they're able to make that money. And it really helps when they're actually people you do know and could have a conversation with. So getting into other spaces, or, just having some online business friends, because you certainly can't talk about this stuff with your cousin
Yeah.
who works at Bunnings and does not understand what you do.
Yeah.
And I still get asked at Christmas, what is it that you do, and why do people pay for it? So yeah, getting with people who understand is huge.
So important. So good. So many gold nuggets there. And I think too, when you're talking about like working with people who are further ahead, or who can help you with the skills that you need to grow your business, etc., I think often the focus can be like how much the investment is. Can you make that investment back? But I think we often forget about the loss that we could be creating if we're not getting that help. as you said, like same thing for me. My first 3 years, mind you, I was popping out a few babies, 3
Yeah.
and 4.5 years. But yeah, like my first 3 years, I didn't really have much actual like business help at all, like in terms of like a business mentor or coach. I realized the other day, because I'm being a good girl, I'm really trying to keep up with my numbers this financial year.
Mm.
And I realized that I've set aside more tax for this year than I created as income for the entire first 3 years. So,
Mm.
a really similar kind of journey. And not to say like that, like everyone will have a very unique timeline and journey for their business growth.
Yeah, for some it might be 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 1 year, but like just knowing that there is usually some time that it
Yeah.
takes.
Yeah. Okay. I love all of that so much. Thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you? What have you got coming up? Share with us all the things.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. I'm at _Rachael_Rose. I hang out there most days. And really, it's together because I only offer 2 things in my business. So it's so simple. Together is available to join at any time. It's fully self-paced. So if you want to become a women's circle facilitator or bring circle style processes into your work, it's an amazing course. People rave about it. It's had, almost 600 people go through it. Otherwise, I have a business mentorship, but I only open it once a year. So the next round won't be for 2026.
Wow. So great. I've loved having you on. Thank you so much for all of your wisdom, all of your gold nuggets, everything you shared. Thank you.
Thank
Love having
you.
you on.
Thank you for having me.